Lozano.
And I'm Isacc Villanueva.
So we are going to explain to you the process of data teams. For PLCs, a lot of us, we have data, but we don't know what to do with it. And data's not good to us if we don't actually make it purposeful. So with that being said, good things happen with PLCs, but their effectiveness moves to the next level when PLCs start doing data teams. No, you guys aren't excited?
So step one is pretty much what we already do within our PLC. It's talking about a common core standard, unwrapping the standard, and then creating some sort of common assessment to administer to our students. So step one, collect and chart data. You're going to identify a common core standard, create and administer a common assessment. You'll gather the data and chart it, disaggregating according to specific subgroups. So we have the 4 subgroups: proficient or high, close to proficient, far but likely, and then our intervention group. You'll also want to address which teachers had how many in each section, and then the total number of students assessed. And then we're really good about collecting and charting the data, but then it kind of stops there. So that leads us into step 2 to make it a highly effective process.
All right, so step 2. So PLCs, a lot of time we see them going from step 1, they chart their data, they see how many students are proficient, how many students are close, not yet, or the intervention group. And then we skipped to step 3 where we make our SMART goals. And so we ignore that step 2 a lot of the time. And so step 2 is where we can make inferences about our learning and about our learners and decide next steps for them. And so this is an example of what we did. We had an ELA first grade standard, and so we identified strengths for all groups. And in our proficient group, we determined next steps to kind of extend their learning. But each group will have different errors or misconceptions. So we can make inferences on not just the what, like they are struggling in this area, but why. So are they missing a prerequisite skill for a certain standard that's affected their achievement on this certain standard? And kind of after we do that, we'll analyze the strengths and the next steps, or the errors and misconceptions, and then we will prioritize them and create a hierarchy for needs. And so we may see a certain need, and this is throughout the grade level, not just your own bubble, your own class, you're doing a big PLC. And so you're wanting to see what those strengths are and how we can extend those students, and also prioritizing those needs. Because we have a lot of students in this category. How are we going to best support them and best take them to the next level so they can reach that SMART goal, which will be step 3.
And that leads us into SMART goals. What are SMART goals? They're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, the results are driven and relevant, and they are time-bound. It answers the questions who, what, when, and how. It has explicit learning goals. We are not set and organized for improvement or results. It moves away from goals and only summative or evaluative. Goal setting process sets targets and allows students to celebrate short-term goals. We had a first grade PLC, and this is an example of their SMART goal. The percentage of first grade students, who are proficient or better in what, identifying the main idea and key details, will increase from 46% to 80% by when? February 6th, which is 4 weeks, as measured by how? The common formative assessment administered on February 6th. So it answers all the questions: who are the students, what do you want them to know, by when, and how are you going to determine that they met the goal.
After you've established a goal for your students to meet proficiency, you need to move on to the actual implementation. And implementation has to include clarity and intentionality. When you get clarity and intentionality by targeting the prioritized needs of each group, our subgroups here are advanced, proficient, close to proficient, and below. Once you address the needs of each subgroup, you can find a strategy that will help them attain that goal of proficiency that we set through our SMART goal. In instructional strategies, the focus is not so much on the student, but the adult behaviors. What is the adult teacher going to do in the environment, in actions, or in providing opportunities to learn? These strategies should be agreed upon as a grade level, as a PLC rather, based on the data that you have acquired. Once you do that, the strategies need to be specific enough to be replicated and also research-based. Sometimes we fall into a little trap of using strategies because this is what my teacher did when I was in 6th grade, or this is what everybody's done, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's research-based and shows that it has effectiveness based on data. We have an example of our instructional strategy that we based on our objective. Our standard was on man ID and key details, identifying man ID and key details. And so we set up an instructional strategy for close to proficient students, mainly because these are the kids that you want to move into proficiency, that would be more likely to move into proficiency than your far below basic, which would probably be intervention students. For close to proficient students, we selected an instructional strategy, which is annotating a paragraph or a text, which can look many ways. Some people use highlighters, some people just use underlining and circling. The learning environment, we stated as small group. It could be multiple environments. Some people have access to computer learning where they can learn that way and manipulate text that way as well. You have to have a time frequency, 2 sessions, 15 to 20 minutes each, just like you do in your lesson plan. If you notice, it's kind of a lesson plan, but now you're differentiating. You need to have the materials that the teachers and students are needing to be successful, as well as what assignments or assessments will be used to guide the instruction and to check for effectiveness of that differentiation through instructional strategies.
And after we have collected and analyzed data, set a goal, and implemented various instructional strategies, we arrive at result indicators. The main thing for result indicators is we want it to be able to determine if the teaching was effective, and if it can predict success. So if we have positive results, we want to predict some success for the next action steps. And for the results that we are unable to achieve, we need to tweak our teaching in order to provide the results. So the bottom bullet point there, an if-then statement. So if these various instructional strategies are implemented, then student A, student B, and so on, we're able to achieve this. If it was positive, we reinforce it, and if not, we tweak it, which leads us to our instructional core. So for our first grade PLC, we have a task of identifying key and main ideas. So that's the content, how the students will be interacting with it with our instructional strategies, and how the teacher, or our teachers' teams collect and analyze that data and bring it back to the content.
And the last step of data team is monitoring, a monitoring meeting. Teachers bring the work samples from the instructional strategy, they implement it in the classroom, they analyze it, they establish feedback to see its effectiveness, to see if there was any impact on student learning. You have to bring back student work samples of the instructional strategies and their effect on them. And then teachers support each other, which is, I think, that's the most important part. You support each other through specific dialogue, modeling, and planning. This is where the data team becomes an extension of PLCs and professional development. This is where you actually do the learning and improve the learning of all the students. If you have a collective agreement that all students in your grade level and at your school are your students. And if you also notice, the data team is kind of recursive, where you come back to the beginning of the data team process, starting all over again. This was our instructional strategy, this was the evidence that we bring back the data. Now what do we do with this? We restart our data team process again, set a new goal based on the needs of the students.
And then data teams and PLCs go hand in hand. So data teams are a model for continuous collaborative action that inspires and empowers professionals to improve teaching, learning, and leadership for all.